America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and let me be very clear that the Democratic Party is doomed because we can't hurt women's feelings. I'll say this again. The Democratic Party is doomed because we can't hurt women's feelings, so that when we put them into positions of public import, and it makes it the case that we can't hold those positions accountable for doing the job that they're supposed to do. Right. And so if we can't hold those positions accountable for doing the jobs they're supposed to do, then the right can come in and just say, get rid of those jobs. The right can come in and say, get rid of those jobs, because it turns out a lot of those jobs would just make work jobs for mediocre white women, especially white women. But for mediocre women, we just did not have the stomach to say we're mediocre. So we had these jobs that kind of needed to be done, but then it wasn't important that they were done very well, because maybe they were public service jobs that disproportionately affected people who were lower on the socioeconomic rung than we cared about. So it was okay that these teachers weren't really teaching kids how to read. It was okay that since we don't really respect the humanities education, it was okay that some of these professors were not really teaching kids how to write, because we don't really care about writing anyway in college. And we can't be surprised then when Elon Musk and his crew, or J.D. Vance and his crew, want to come in and get rid of the Department of Education and so many of our universities, because they were full of people who were not really doing their job in a way that could be both accountable and was up to even their own professional standards. But we couldn't critique them, because to do that, to critique basic women about being basic in jobs that required them to be more than basic, was décaissé and gauche. And this disproportionately affects the Democratic Party, because I think on the right, basic women aren't under the illusion that they aren't basic. On the right, basic women know that they're basic, which is fine. Basic men know that they're basic. That's all of country music. Basic guys like understanding that they're basic. But basic women on the right understand that they're basic. Now, on the left and liberals, basic women think that they're not basic. And that's the problem. Because once again, they get positions of public respect and public authority and public responsibility, but they expect not to have to actually be accountable to the public, right? And that, once again, opens up the space for the right to come in and just get rid of the whole profession. Not because the profession is shot through with women, but because women have so distorted the profession that the profession is not accountable, right? So we can get rid of teachers now because teachers haven't been teaching kids how to read for years. And there wasn't really a full accountability for that sight words nonsense and all the nonsense that goes on with education. If there was a full accountability and a responsibility and a seriousness with which teachers took their jobs, it would be harder to get rid of the Department of Education. But it's just full of unserious people who feel entitled to be unserious. And it turns out that other serious people on the right will come and just take away your unserious profession because you were never serious about it. Like, colleges haven't been serious about teaching for a while, so you can't really be surprised when there is so much energy around just defunding so many colleges, because they haven't really been serious about teaching for a while, because teaching's hard, and people don't want to do that hard work. I'm going to do a different video on teaching, about how teaching is not merely an intellectual, endeavor. It's also an attitudinal. What you're doing is changing people's attitude about learning, not just filling them full of your own ideology. Right? And changing people's attitude about learning is actually hard. And if you're not up to that kind of hard work, it's actually hard and creative work. It's hard in lots of different ways of being hard. And if you're not up to that kind of work, you can't be surprised when the public that funds you wants to just cut your access to the teat, because you don't want to do the job. You want to teach, and I heard some woman say this, I teach to people who want to learn. That's not the job. The job isn't teaching the people who want to learn. If it was just a matter of teaching the people who want to learn, then teaching would be a lot easier than it is. But and this is a career teacher who said, I teach the people who want to learn. And that's just lazy. That's just lazy. The fact that nobody ever said that. Your job is to teach people who don't want to learn. Your job is to get people who don't want to learn to actually come to want to learn. And that's the hard work. And not by making it fun, but by actually like contorting their mind into a vessel that can appreciate the inside of the wisdom you're trying to dispense or open them up to so that they can kind of grasp at it themselves. I will say that for my soccer team, I was thinking about giving a most improved award. And the most improved award was going to just be on the player who improved the most, like in terms of skill. But actually, I'm changing who I'm going to give the award to, and it's not going to be the player who improved the most on skill. Although this player did improve the most on, is comparable, is in the conversation of being the person who improved the most on skill. It's going to go to the player who improved the most on skill and attitude. I'm talking about the player who came in with the worst attitude about the learning she had to do to become a better player, but also the player who actually changed her attitude and came to actually become a better learner of this game. Right. So that kind of attitudinal improvement is going to be the most improved. That's going to count for some of the improvement in the most improvement category, not just the most improved skills wise. But I digress. Let's talk about how feminism holds or protects women who are in public service positions from the accountability adequate to those public service positions. And then when those positions get distorted because the accountability that belongs to those positions has been removed by dint of gender, under the aegis of gender, then other people from the right can just go and get rid of the whole positions. They can get rid of the whole position because we've made a position that ought to be publicly accountable or have some accountability mechanisms, a position without any accountability, because to put accountability on positions that women do would be misogynist. Right? So, when they came, and then you could say this about motherhood, you could say this about teaching, you could say this about the entire Democratic Party. So what the Democratic Party has done is now doomed itself because it can't hold its women accountable for having bad policies. It's not just it can't hold its women accountable for like some defect of being women. That's not it. That would actually be misogynist. It can't hold its women accountable for bad policies, for having inadequate policies, for being wedded to inadequate policies. So you have the money problem where we have a hard time holding rich people accountable. And then we have the gender problem, which we have a hard time holding a woman accountable. And now you put rich women in charge of a party. And guess what? That party is going to be irrelevant rather quickly because nobody is going to, tell them they don't have any clothes. They don't like that the emperor has no clothes. Nobody's going to tell them the truth about the inadequacies of their politics. And they feel entitled to not have adequate politics. There is no more dangerous leader than a basic person who doesn't know that they're basic. But with guys, we tell basic people that they're basic. They have to have a good sense of humor about being basic. With basic women, and it starts when they're girls. I see this now, and I'll tell you, if you've watched my show, I'll tell you that the most dangerous peers that my daughter has are basic white girls who don't know that they're basic, because they might actually suborn her into becoming basic, but they'll be fine because we have an American economy that's built for basic white women, but we don't have an American economy that's built for black women of that same disposition. So I need to make my daughter excellent, but it's hard to convince her that she needs to be excellent when, all of her basic white girl friends seem to be doing just fine. Except now it's better that they're getting older because they're in more performance-based things. And being basic is not helping them with their performance-based things. But there are also like other sort of avenues for basic white women to avoid confronting their basicness, especially in school, like drama club and all of these things where like the difference between hackery and excellence can be kind of elided and be postponed for a while. And so these basic white women don't ever realize that they're basic until it's too late for them. But then they just, they divorce that guy, take half his money and move on. I don't know, become teachers. But Now I digress. What I'm saying is that the Democratic Party has had for a while a hard time holding professional class white women accountable. Women in general, but especially professional class white women in general. And we thought that that was a benign defect in the party, but it turns out that it distorts the profession that those professional class white women are in, and then the right can come along and just get rid of the entire profession, and you don't have a leg to stand on because the professions have been so distorted that like you can't really defend them in their current iteration. You can only defend them as ideals. We can't defend public schools in their current iteration. You can only defend them as ideals. We can't defend universities in their current iteration. You can only defend them in ideals. Honestly, you can't really defend women's studies programs in their current iteration. You can only defend them in terms of ideals. And so when people want to get rid of them in their current iteration, it's kind of hard because the worst actors or practitioners are the ones militating against the removal of the program. So that's the problem. And I don't think it's a problem that's going to be easily defeated. I don't think it's a problem that's going to be easily defeated, because the entitlements of this class, and they're so comfortable. They are so comfortable. The entitlements of this class are, they don't see, like it's afforded them a rather cushy, non-accountable life to damn the entire republic to conservative rule, because they can't admit that they don't have their finger on the pulse of everything that's like unjust and bad in the nation, right? So I don't know. You heard it here first. I think the whole United States is about to become Georgia and Florida, and we'll see. We'll see. I don't think the Democratic Party is getting its act together, and it's betting on a collapse. And I don't think the collapse is coming. And not in the way that will actually bring back a Democratic Party. I think we need to be honest about the feminist problem, the feminism problem. And we need to be honest that we promoted a lot of women to public serving positions who don't really care about the public, and then now have the entitlement not to care about the public. And it turns out that when bad actors want to get rid of those public service positions, we should have been holding the people we promoted in those public service positions accountable. And since we haven't, we are now in a position that to defend people who've been doing their job in an indefensible way, just because we like the job as an abstracted from the person who's actually been doing it. All right. By the way, if you appreciate me, and I think you should appreciate what I talk about, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month, because nobody's going to talk to you about this. Maybe apparently Chris Hedges of the Chris Hedges Report in Detail. Maybe Chris Hedges of the Chris Hedges Report went over some of this terrain. I don't know. I haven't heard Chris Hedges, but I do believe that this is the problem. And this is like, it's a damning problem. I think the Democratic Party is cooked because of its inability to hold women accountable. And now conservatives can just have like regular women who will be held accountable in regular ways, and it will still like be more relevant than the Democratic Party. Right? So the biggest problem with the Democratic Party is we don't tell basic women that they're basic. And the inability to do that, because they might start crying or might start feeling a certain way, the inability to do that is going to undermine the entire party's ability to contrive or conceive of actually the appropriate public solutions to the problems of the day. And then someone who says like, look, this office doesn't contrive or conceive of and realize the appropriate public solutions to the problems of the day, so it should be removed, you're going to have a hard time defending that office, all because it's been contorted and distorted by the inability to hold professional class white women accountable, right? So, sorry for your party, And not just professional class white women, the black women who want all of the protections of professional class white women. They don't want to be held accountable either. And so when Elon Musk and JD Vance come for their offices, there's not going to be a leg to stand on because they weren't doing their offices very well either, because they wanted all of the provisions that we provide professional class white women. And it turns out like they all should have been either held accountable or broomed a long time ago. And someone says, as if we hold white men accountable. Yeah, but we're loud about not holding white women and white men accountable. We are loud. We are loud and allowed to talk all of the trash about white men. So you get a variety of white men. We are not allowed to talk all of the trash about the white women we don't hold accountable because they're white women, right? We are allowed to talk about all of the white men we don't hold accountable because they are white men. We are not allowed on the left to talk about all of the white women we don't talk about because they are white women. And that's an important difference because it's a difference that undermines our discourse. If we were just allowed to hold the Nancy Pelosi's accountable, then and like talk all the trash that they deserve, then we would actually have a better politics. But we're not even allowed to. We're not allowed to like call Dianne Feinstein brain dead. So that's the problem. And it dooms the party until we're in denial that we have like a cheap feminism party. So, thank you for your time. If you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and I will talk to you at another time. Peace. Democrats, the party of credentialed dingbats. And we can't do anything about it.